Hello everyone, welcome to this workshop. In this tutorial, we will go through the basics of qualitative data analysis software, that is Nvivo. So during this tutorial, we'll cover the following aspects. First, how can Nvivo help you analyze data? The basics of the Nvivo workspace, how to create a new project in Nvivo, and how to import your research materials into Nvivo, and how to create new documents and memos, and also how to code in Nvivo. So for new researchers, you might be confused about whether if to use Nvivo software for your qualitative data analysis. As can be seen on the left side, so you can of course carry out your research and your data analysis by printing out, for example, your interview transcripts and use the highlighters to analyze or code your data. So, but qualitative research can be messy as you have to manage and analyze a large amount of data. Therefore, organizing the data and performing the analysis can be difficult. So, especially with large data sets, this can be quite overwhelming. As we can see here on the right side of this slide, this is a project carried out by Nvivo. So it is very easy to organize your data, and also you can make notes and search for themes across all your data set very easily. We all know that qualitative researchers use different types of non-numerical data, such as interviews, focus groups, surveys, journal articles, web pages, and field observations in order to explore and evaluate social phenomena. Qualitative data analysis software such as Nvivo can help you organize and analyze qualitative data more effectively. However, I think we should be clear that Nvivo does not favor a particular methodology. It is designed to facilitate common qualitative techniques. So in the following tutorial, we will go through the basics of Nvivo workspace, and we will go through the procedure of creating a new project and coding your data. So this is the page of the Nvivo software, and this version is Nvivo 11. That's the newest version you can get. And as you could see here, if you click the file, and then there is a button, new, open, save, copy project. So if we click new project, we can create our project. So here, we're gonna give this a title. So we will name it as Nvivo training. And the description box, we can write down that this project shows how to use Nvivo. So, and here, browse, we can choose where we want to locate or save our file. So we can go through browse, hit the button browse, and I'd like to save it in the folder I created earlier called Nvivo Workshop. And if you notice save as a type here, .nvp, that's a correct format for you to save your projects. And then we click open. and save. So before we click OK here, we should check this box. Here is a checkbox for, and it says write user actions to project event log. So this actually means Nvivo will create a log to record all our actions in this project. So here, and then we click OK. So now our new project is creating. So this will be how our new project looks now. So now we will familiarize ourselves with the key terminologies in Nvivo. So the main menu here on the left side, here as we can see, is the main menu. And here we have sources, nodes, classifications, collections, queries, report, maps, and folders. So my tip to navigate Nvivo is to first hit the button sources. That will open the folders or subfolders belong to the sources here. And what we open from there should open and show us from here in this section. We call them the detail view. So now we'll use this new project to explore how to use Nvivo. So first, you might be curious about how to import your research materials or the data you collect into Nvivo. So as we said, sources here is a menu where we store all our research materials. If you have a look here, this is the icon for sources. It looks like a drawer, like the table drawers. So that's actually you put all your research materials. And it can be interviews, surveys, pictures, audios, and other types of files. So here we will cover the basic functions, including the internals, externals, and memos. So first we'll start with the internals here. So internal folders is going to storage your data. And before we start to import all our documents, we need to create folders and subfolders to store research data obtained using different data collection methods. For example, you may want to create subfolders for your interviews, and then you may want to create a folder for your surveys and another one for your later review. So we first right-click internal, and then we select new folder. And now we can give it a name. We can name, for example, interview, transcripts. So in the description box, we can say that, so this is the transcripts from the interview, the transcripts from the interview. So now we can see we have the folder interview transcripts here under internals. So first, I'm going to import my interview transcripts to the internal. So we select interview transcripts, and then we select data on the top menu, and then we choose which file you want to import. You can import documents, PDFs, survey, audios, videos, picture, memos. So here my interview transcripts are Word documents. So I will click Documents and I locate where I saved my interview documents. In this folder, I have all my transcripts saved here, and I have participant 1 and participant 2. That are all my transcripts. And then I click the button here, Open. And then Import internals. I click the button OK. Okay, so you could see here the participant 1 and 2, the transcripts are imported in Nvivo already. So because my interview transcripts are Word documents, but if your ones are PDFs, or you can even import audios, or if you even have a video, you can import it to here also. So for my research, that's the how we import our interview transcripts here. Or even you might want to create a folder called, let's say, your open-ended questions in the questionnaire. So you might say this is the open-ended questions from questionnaire. And then you can import all your details here. And you may also want to create a folder for your, let's say, for your research journal. For example, you want to input or save all your research consent notes, your let's say your emails, and all the form of participation for the survey or interview. You could create a folder called research administrator. We can call them research administrator. So we have research journal. We have maybe your research consent form, or maybe you even have your ethnic approval, or your emails and form of participation. And so on. So, and then we click OK. So now we create all this folder, and so you can actually keep all the relevant information in these separate folders here. So now if you want to save your project, we can click the button here to save the project, and Nvivo will automatically remind you every other 15 minutes to save your project. So the next topic is the memos here. Memos, so you can note down your interesting thoughts or ideas relevant to your research project by creating a memo. So it can also be attached as sticky notes. For example, you may want to keep notes about your thoughts on one interview or to record non-verbal interactions during your interview. So I'm going to click on my interview files. So my interview transcripts, and then I can select the participant one, and I go right click here. You can see memo link and link to new memo. So we can name this as observations during participants one's interview. Observations during participant's interview. So in the description box, we can see observations and non-verbal communications during the participant one's interview. So now we can click OK button. So then you could type in your nonverbal communications and your observations you made during participants one's interview. For example, you may have, say, let's say nonverbal communication and blah blah blah. You can note down all the interesting aspects for this project here. Now we're going to close this memo here. So as you could see, this kind of yellow icon, yellow-green icon here, next to the P participants one's interview, shows the memo is linked with this interview. So if you want to open the memo again, we can select participant 1 and right-click, and then we go for memo link. And you could see the options open linked memo. We click that, and then we see the memo that we created earlier on. So in this way, this memo is attached with the interview transcripts. So we went through how to import our research materials and data into these internals. So internals folder is to store all the documents that you have about this project. And externals store sources, source material that you cannot import. For example, there is a book that is very interesting and relevant to this research project, but you only have a hard copy. You don't have access to an electronic copy of the book. And then we can create files, maybe the summary of the book under the category of externals here. In that way, you can note down your interesting thoughts and information relevant to this research. So as here, we could click externals, and then we could create folder, for example, summary of book. Summary of book, and then here description, you can put in like a summary of the book, for example, introduction to applied linguistics or research methodology, and we click OK. So here we create the folder of summary book, and then you can input if you click, see the top menu here, if you click create, you can create documents within this externals. So externals folder is for materials or sources that you cannot import directly into Nvivo, that you have no access to. So now we covered the internals, externals, memos, how to import your transcripts, your research data into Nvivo, and also how to create a memo, and we also know how to link the memo with our interview transcripts. So the next thing will be after we imported our research data and materials into Nvivo, and we want to analyze our data and want to code our data. So here we'll cover some basics of coding. So coding, as we all know, can be theory-driven or can from the bottom-up approach. That is to say, the code can comes from the data set. So for example, I want to collect the information about teachers' perceptions of their own roles in the classrooms. So I can create a new code called teacher's role. So we have to note that in Nvivo, nodes are the place that you put all your codes in. So here is actually not codes, and they call it nodes. So if we click nodes here, and that's where we create our codes and save our codes. And then we can click the create button on the top menu, and then we go for node here, make a new node, and then we can type in the name of our code, that is teacher's role in teacher's role, and then description will be, we can say the perception of teachers the role they play in language classrooms, and then we can save. Okay, so now we have a code or node called teacher's role. So then go to our interview files, go to our transcripts. We can click the sources and click our interview transcripts, and then go to our transcripts participant 1, and then we can go through this transcript and try to find what this participant think about their role in class. And then we found it here, there's a question asked, what kind of role you're playing as to the student-teacher relationship. And then we can see that this teacher said, generally speaking, I'm an organizer. I organize the listening, speaking, reading, writing activities for them. For example, blah, blah, blah. So here we can quote here, say, this teacher think him or herself as an organizer. So you select the relevant content from your transcript, and then you can actually drag them. You can actually, so we, for example, we select here, And then we can then open our nodes, that's teacher's row, and then we select the relevant content, and then we drag to this node, and you can see here sources 1, references 1, that means one of the participants mentioned this, and he or she mentioned once about the teacher's row. So if we click here, we can see the relevant information. Here it shows that who said this, that is from our participant 1 in the interview transcripts, and then what does he or she say? She or she said that generally speaking, I'm an organizer, so that you can have a look of the relevant content from your transcript. And now we might want to have a look of what is the situation for the participant 2. So we go to sources, and then we go to our interview transcripts. We see the participants here. We click participant 2, and we try to locate our relevant information about the role teacher is in classroom. Here we find that in your opinion, what is your role in class? And here there's a answer said, I think my role is guidance. When we're learning the articles in the book, I give them the guidance to learn, and they also have to do a lot of work by themselves. So we can select this interesting part, and there is another way to code. So if you right click here, and then we go down here, code selection, and we have the choice of code selection at existing node. And if we click this button here, all the nodes we created will show for here. And we want to code under this teacher's row. So we click teacher's row, and then we click here, OK. So now, if we go back to our node here, and then we click our node teacher's row, as we can see here, sources, it changed to 2 and references 2. That means 2 participants mentioned this, and also they each of them mentioned once about their role in classroom. If we double click here, and we can see that the details information about the content, participants 1 said that she or he is an organizer. Participant 2 said that the role is guidance. So now that's the 2 ways to code from our transcript. And also, like we mentioned earlier, that coding can be theory driven, or it can come up from the bottom up approach. So for example, here that's the save reminder we mentioned earlier, that Nvivo will remind you every other 15 minutes to save your last project, and of course we'll hit the button yes to save our project. So as we mentioned earlier, that we can code our transcripts from the data that we think is very interesting. For example, here, if we look up our participant 1 and 2's transcript, and also the content that is under the code teacher's role, and we think that maybe an organizer, I like to create a code called organizer that is specifically teacher's role, teachers' perceptions about their role in classroom. And you can select this, and we can go right click the button, and we have here code selection. So we can code selection at new code. So we can generate a new code, click new code, and we can give a name of this new code. And maybe we'd like to call it organizer. So you can actually describe why you code this way. So the description box is quite useful because for researchers, they might code their data for a little bit while, and then they might go off their work for another few weeks, and when they come back, they may have different views or perceptions of the way they code, and they may totally forget why they generate such code. So the description box kind of reminds you why you code this way. So we can type in here like teachers view on their role in class, and we can hit the button OK. So we can see here there's a new code generated called organizer, and then here my role is guidance. We think this can be very interesting, and we want to generate a code called guidance. And then we go to right click the button and we go to code selection. We can generate new code selection at new node. So we click, and then we can say guidance, and then you can type in the description here in the box, and then we can hit OK. So as we can see here, we have two new codes called guidance and organizer. So in Nvivo, we can create hierarchy relationship between these nodes. For example, here for teacher's role, the guidance and organizers are child nodes, and the teacher's role is a parent node. So if you select guidance and organizer and you drag them to teacher's role, and now if you click the little button here, you can see you create a hierarchy relationship between the nodes. That is to say that you create a parent node called teacher's role and your two child node called guidance and organizer. So in this way that you can give and also visualize the relationship between your codes. So now if we want to close this here, we could see, as we mentioned earlier, that on the left side here is kind of like your main menu. You click sources to look up all the materials that you input for this project, and your nodes will show here if you click their nodes. Another thing will be to save your project. As we could see this button, we click here to save our project. And if you want to copy your project to save it, for example, in a hard drive or somewhere else, so you can click File, and then you can click Copy Project, and then Location, Browse, so you can actually save your project in a different place. For example, we can save it in our folder we created earlier in Nvivo workshop, and then you give it different name. We say a backup Nvivo training, and then we click save. So in this way, that we saved our project. So we have different copies. So another basic function is the view, the layout So if you go to the sources here, and then you click, for example, your transcripts, and your transcripts will show here on the right side. But if you want to display differently, if you hit the button here, View, on the top menu, and then you can see there's a choice called Detail View. If you hit here, you have two choices, right and bottom. That means if you click right, it will show here, your transcript will show here. But if you click the here, bottom, so your transcript actually shows on the bottom. So that will give you different layout. You might prefer to show it this way. So now, summary. So in this tutorial, we went through how to create your new project and how to import your materials into your Nvivo and create different folders under the internals. That's where you save and import all your documents relevant to the research project. And then we went through how to create and import materials that you cannot import directly to your project. That's where you put them into externals. And then we went through how to create a memo and how to link our memo with our interview transcripts. And also how to create notes and the coding procedure. So you should be able to create a new project and import your material and code your data. So thanks so much for participating this workshop, and good luck with your research project. If you need more information, you can go to the Nvivo official website or YouTube to find more information about how to navigate Nvivo to analyze your data.